Hello and welcome back to the ANZ HGC Premier Division qualifiers. And what a week it has been. A lot of drama has unfolded throughout these days, but we are now here, politics aside, ready to bring you the third week of games. As always, my name is Skimmy, or GL Phoenix, to my right, and we're going to be cracking on with all of the action tonight. GL Phoenix, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling real great. Thanks, Skimmy. It's always a joy to be casting with you, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing how some of these games go. We're going to be really starting to see which teams are going to be filling out the up echelons and who's going to be fighting for those last few spots in the Premier Division.
That is the one. So obviously the most notable change that's happened during this week of events is that Haggy has moved from Darksided back to his old former teammates over at the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. So changes have happened across the board. But let's bring up a schedule and see what we have on our plates tonight. 4 best of ones and 4 games for you to sink your teeth into. We're going to start things off, first of all, with Roles Unspecified and the Wolfpack. Both of these teams are looking to really make their mark in the series so far. Roles Unspecified at 2-5, Wolfpack at 4-3, so definitely going to be a closely contested match in that regard. Second game is going to be on with the Quick Match Warriors taking on Downfall. Downfall really are the team to beat in this situation. They are rocking a 7-1 score, GL, whilst the Quick Match Warriors are on 5-3. Third game, Alternative up against Saboteur. Once again, a very close affair, 3-5 and 3-4 respectively. And that fourth and final game was set to be GG Go Next versus Salty Dogs, but it has now been changed. Salty Dogs aren't able to fill a roster for tonight, which means the fourth game for tonight will be Rich Gang versus Neko Mimi. What a bang to finish off the night with. Jill, is there any matchup in particular that really sticks out to you?
Well, a lot of, as you're talking about, all these matches have got some really hotly contested lineups on both sides. But the second one of the day between the QM Warriors and Downfall is one that I really think is going to be a very interesting match because, as you mentioned, Downfall being one of the most dominant teams coming out of these qualifiers so far, and the QM Warriors, they're on their tails, I suppose. Yeah. I'm very intrigued to see how they'll match up against them.
Well, without further ado, GL, let's jump into the business end of things. Looks like we've got both of our teams in the lobby already. The map itself is Infernal Shrines. So let's jump into game number 1. Wolfpack up against Roles Unspecified to kick off the third week of the HGC qualification process.
Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting one. As you were mentioning, both of these teams are closing in on those last few spots to try and qualify for the Premier Division. But both teams have been having their struggles over the past couple of weeks. And hopefully, as we get through, as they've got more and more experience playing in the competitive environment and had more time to work on some of their mistakes, gone over some of their replays, hopefully they've been able to really shore up some of their gameplay and we can see some really good matches.
And that's what you want to see at the end of the day. You want to see some quality drafting, but not only the drafting, but see the execution as well. There's been times in the past where we've judged a draft and said that team should, in theory, win. But also the execution is the next major component. This has always been a hot topic in ANZ, at least, is trying to find quality scrim opponents. So it's interesting to see how these teams can adapt from that global stage, what we are seeing in the major regions, but how they can actually apply in a competitive setting, be it quick match or be it in an actual scrim. But let's start it off with the very first banner of the night. It had to be. It's the Shimada brothers once again still taking full focus. It's Genji off the board straight away, whilst Roles Unspecified are a little bit more hesitant. Now, we have seen a priority shift to some degree across the board, but it is going to be settled with the ETC. Team is really respecting this guy is, without a doubt, a powerhouse in the tanking department.
Yeah, absolutely. He brings everything. He has so much crowd control and it's still quite durable. And he can bring some of that extra sustainability with the prog rock at level 1. So very unsurprising to see that get taken off the board, but that does leave open some very high priority DPS heroes for both sides.
That it does. I mean, with the Hanzo being locked in here, a little bit predictable, I suppose. If you are not going to ban it away, then teams are very likely to pick it up. Can go a few different options with that build. Obviously, the Scatter Arrow build will do quite well in terms of murking control, whilst the more commonly suited auto attack build allows them to do fantastic work when it comes to fighting potential. The response immediately by Roles Unspecified is we need a burst comp and a dive comp at that. What is the biggest weakness, Geo, for Hanzo? It is hard dive. So the Greymane and the Divine Shield, it's a lot of stickiness that Hanzo now has to be quite aware of.
Yeah, his position is going to be needing to be very much on point and be very aware of where he's standing when it comes into these fights. He might have some help with some of the next few heroes, as we do see the Artless picked up. Always a very good option going into that Greymane, as he will really reduce the amount of DPS that the Greymane can pump out.
Let's see here. Oh, they do go for the Arthas. Now, Arthas is a fantastic pick, specifically aimed at the Greymane. Without a doubt, the next best tank after HGC, in my personal opinion, in terms of his control, his setup, and his ability just to make problems happen, especially in the early game. Now, rotations do dictate how things happen, obviously, leading into level 10. A map like this, whilst not... I'd like to say not as impactful as maps, say, like Tomb of the Spider Queen, still does obviously have a big threshold when it comes to bouncing between mid and bot and vice versa to try and get that XP and try and get that level lead. Now, Stukov, much in the same regard that Rhaegar excels and that chain healing, will do the same kind of job with one extra tidbit, and that would be, once the Howling Blast lands, there's a lurking arm to follow up. If you get too aggressive and try and dive, hey, we've got Arthas, but we also potentially have that flailing arm.
Yeah, Stukov being a very good option into those very dive heavy. And as you were mentioning before, the Greymane is one of those heroes that does want to get in amongst it, wanting to get those executions going with that go for the throat, especially on a target like Hanzo. And as you mentioned, the Stukov can just completely deny all of that and make just give a lot of space for that Hanzo to essentially just let him go to work.
Now, what do we think about this ban here? They've gone for the Gul'dan. Now, Gul'dan, a fantastic pick for wave clear, obviously, would do quite well as to what I was mentioning before. But this would really indicate the fact that saying, hey, we are very susceptible to CC that would interrupt our chain of command, right? You know, the fights, we want them to be short, sharp, and focused. That's why we've gone for the Uther. He's very cooldown dependent, has to find impact with those cooldowns of his. But the Gul'dan, a well-timed horror fight amongst what we've already seen come out of those first three picks, would have really disrupted their job.
Yeah, just another one of those tools that really helps to disengage some of those dive-heavy compositions. And we're seeing... Wolfpack understanding that that's the kind of playstyle that Roles Unspecified wants to go with. Banning away that Tyrael, who does facilitate a lot of those dive-centric compositions very well. He can put that Eldrins forward, get in there, put down that Sanctification, and essentially give the great landing pad for all those dive heroes to just go straight into the middle of the fight and keep it going. So a very strong ban coming out from Wolfpack. We'll just have to wait and see how Roles Unspecified really do want to start to put that composition together.
Well, that's the one. And I was going to say with the Tyrael, not necessarily even having to go to Sanctification, potentially you can even go Judgment. It's a case of just overwhelm them with pressure. We've seen what in the past, like Lucio, Tyrael, Greymane. It's just so many people running at you. It's just far too scary. But in the end, they do decide to go for another dive-heavy warrior. They've gone for the Anubarak. Now, the Anubarak is fantastic in the regard that the Cocoon will still be able to isolate one of these annoying members in particular. So potentially the Arthas, potentially the Stukov to shut down that sustain or shut down that counter-engage. The Li Ming promotes this idea of if we want to dive, and if we do dive, we're all in. That is our one move. That is our strategy. We are committing regardless of all things considered. But a very quick turnaround here by the Wolfpack. They've gone for the global. They need to Harker. That's what they want. Isolation perhaps to try and prevent the Greymane or Anubarak getting that one shot. But then the Tesla coming in as double support.
Yeah, it's one thing that I've been seeing much more over in North America. It's the combination of the Tesla and the Hanzo. I've seen it pretty much all throughout the world after I saw it. As I mentioned, I saw it more recently, most notably in North America, but the rest of the world was picking up on it quite a bit. But the Tesla and the Hanzo together, especially with the auto attack build of the Hanzo, he does put out a reasonable amount of damage, and the healing with it is quite significant and can keep him alive a fair bit, especially with the style of that auto attack Hanzo. You're going to be almost overextending yourself a little bit more than how you would with some of the other playstyles. So it's a combination that's picked up a fair bit. It's going to be interesting to see if they're going to be able to get it to work. But that last pick of the Blaze, that's a real interesting one.
And once again, it's really promoting these ideas that both of these teams have very different and distinct ideas as how to play this match, I suppose you could say, right? With the Tesla, with the Dahaka, it's all a case of these are elusive heroes that are quite hard to kill. Dimensional Shift, Burrow, whatever it might be. Sustaining factors, Blaze. Well, he's the newest property on the block, really, isn't he? When it comes to the game, he is one that wants to get amongst it, cause chaos, slow people down. And he's once again just promoting this idea of jump in with the Greymane, get these kills. I think if you boil it down, it comes to a case of how well can the Hanzo player play, basically, or how well can Roles Unspecified execute in a degree that they find the kills, they get the resets, and they snowball it from there.
Yeah, it's, as you mentioned, they've got very distinct styles, and it's going to be very interesting to see how they play around the map with these two distinct styles, whether or not one team is going to essentially give up some of the objectives in order to get advantages elsewhere, or trying to draw their opponent into these situations where they can get their composition to work as to what they want their composition to do.
Just trying to look here and see who would actually have the stronger early game. For the most part, you'd argue that Greymane should, with all that diving pressure, is right off the bat with their basic skill set. Flip side of that being that you will have the Alpha State to lock people in place, but I would give it to Roles Unspecified so far. But let's jump into the game itself. Game number 1, week number 3 of these open qualifiers to determine who makes it into the Premier Division. On your screen right now, in the red, is Roles Unspecified. It's Lorne playing Uther. Risen on the Greymane. We've got Ayusuz on Blaze. Rifles is on Li Ming. And finally, we have Bob Goat on Inubrak.
And in the blue, we have the Wolfpack. We have Jester on the Tassadar, LG on the Dahaka, Tanner is going to be on the Arthas, Helium is on the Stukov, and Tegiza, with a lot of pressure on his shoulders, is going to be on the Hanzo.
Yeah, so much pressure on his shoulders. He has to play it patiently, and he has to play it with some kind of... I don't want to say finesse. I mean, finesse he will, but he needs to play aggressive, but at the same time realize that he is not indestructible, right? It's a little bit similar to what we used to know with these Valak comps, right? You know, you're that very squishy hero that can output a lot of damage. Have to play aggressive to maximize that. Otherwise, all this extra HP you get as a buffer from these shields and heals essentially go to waste. Let's focus our attention on the top lane. This is an interesting one, right? For the most part, I believe Blaze should actually win that out. It's going to determine how well Org can play in utilizing his global factor.
Yeah, the Blaze does have the sustain and also the wave clear, but on the bottom side of the map, we do have a pick going off already with the Stukov going down. That's a very clean kill coming out right off the bat for Roles Unspecified. Nice stuff for them.
Yeah, that's the early game that we're saying you had to be concerned about those basic skills from level 1. They are there, and I say they can dive. They don't need those talents to amplify them. They are there from day dot. And if they can find more kills like this, then it starts to really, I don't know, shine in their favor. They gets them that little early level lead. That means what you were saying before, promotes the idea of them having control of the mercs, the rotational paths, the optimal paths that also when it comes to Shrine time as well. If they can win the race to 10, I think it becomes a very scary situation if you're Wolfpack to stabilize.
Yeah, and you saw just right there, Tanner was just checking some of those areas where they don't have the vision. They have to be very aware of where Roles Unspecified are going to be because of that very aggressive composition. If they are going to be, if they get caught unawares of and get engaged upon, as we do see on that mercenary camp, Helium is taken very low. The shields are coming out to help him out, but it's just not enough, and that's a great invade come from Roles Unspecified. And that's what we need to see out of that lineup, that aggressive style of play, just catch the opponents off guard and really just make their lives a living hell.
I mean, and the concern with that one is it just took them so long to kill it. Arthas wasn't even there, so there was no protection, there was no ward, if you will, because that's how you're playing as a tank for the most part, right? Bob Goat was in that shrub for a long time before anyone even responded, and, you know, easy picks like that, 2 kills for free, starts them off pretty well.
Yeah, and now we do have Ulti moving forward, taking a lot of damage, but they do have all 5 members there. A great lockdown onto Lorne. That's going to be a kill for them, and it's a brilliant time to be getting that as the Shrine is going to be coming up on the top side of the map. Gives them a great opportunity to set up for that first objective of the game.
Yeah, that was actually a fantastic turnaround on OG, noticing that his team needed some form of lifeline. Look, I'm not going to win that top lane, but I can assist making this fight a 5v4 and swing the favors in us in that regard. Shot calls would have been made, however, by the Roles Unspecified lads. They've gone to the bottom lane. They've gone for this Khazra camp. They want to keep OG in check, making sure that he cannot just push this lane for free. They will want to commit all 5 members to that top lane if they so desire. The shot call, however, at this stage, GL, is we get the camp in the bottom, we push mid for free. We just want to try and keep ahead in XP.
Exactly, and that's always a very viable strategy coming in on this map. You don't necessarily need to make the play for that first objective. You can get a lot of experience just from the standing structures, and it's actually drawn down a lot of the members of the Wolfpack. They're going to start making their way onto the members of Unspecified, but they do manage to get out, but a lot of damage going down on both sides.
Larison very lucky to get away with his life. No mana, no chance really to actually turn around and force and engage on his side. And that really was the opportunity for the Wolfpack to find their kill. Jester was still uninterrupted, clearing top lane. Got 21 little dudes to 0, so they've got a healthy lead in that regard. Still a half-level buffer that Unspecified have acquired as a result of all this pushing and skirmishing. But it does mean that this first Punisher shall go in favor. It's a frozen Punisher at that, so not the strongest out of all, but definitely will have some impact if they can combine it with a jump and say a Howling Blast, for instance.
Yeah, as you mentioned, it's not necessarily the strongest in terms of just raw numbers, but that the frozen pulses can really help out in locking down members and really setting off a chain reaction, which we could very well see with the follow-up from potentially the Dahaka with the tongue drag or even a Howling Blast from the Arthas. But there we go. The Frozen Punisher has been picked up, and the members of Unspecified are here with the Shaman camp pushing into it. We'll have to see how this defense goes.
Interested to see how the Wolfpack posture for this one. Zagiza's only at 5 stacks. Now he does need 12 to amplify his attack speed by 50%, and it's extremely noticeable once the attack speed has been added. There's the jump. There's the Howling Blast as well as the Lurking Arm, so you can start to get a bit of an idea, guys, what this combo is going to look like going into the later stage of this game. You're locked in place, you're silenced, potentially rooted if he decides to diversify his skill set even further that way. And suddenly, whoever they decide to go for is a dead man walking. But yep, as you traditionally expect from the first Immortal phase, or first Punisher phase at that, you only get really the gate, a tower, and a constellation prize off. Maybe we go for a skirmish now.
Ooh. They do manage to catch Lorne in rotation, just not really respecting where the rest of the Wolfpack are. They are going to lose their Uther, but he's still going to be useful in this fight as they want to keep on going. Tanner going towards the top side, and he's going to be locking down the members of Unspecified, but it's actually just going to be the one for nothing. But they do manage to get a nice tongue drag onto Cersei, but he does use the jet propulsion to get himself out of there just as that Lurking Arm was going down. That could have been dangerous.
Could have been very dangerous indeed, and as a result, Gio, now suddenly we find ourselves in a situation where Wolfpack have stabilized. They haven't been caught out as much as they've been in this early few minutes of this game. They are now ahead in XP. Yes, the kills are 2 for 2, but those are impactful kills, obviously assisted by the fact that they took those towers from that Punisher as well. This time, quite comfortably, they can pick up their Khazra.
Yeah, now we're starting to see this lineup from the Wolfpack. We've seen how the fights want to go for them. They want Tanner, and they want on the Arthas, and they want that Dahaka just sitting amongst the members of Unspecified, just making their lives really hard, trying to get onto that back line and allowing Tegeza on this Hanzo to just shred them with those sharpened arrowheads, and it really just start pumping out that damage.
Let's see here, because OG does have Brush Talker available, so he can rotate on through if need be. They are going to win this race level 10. There goes the Howling Blast to start things off with. Wants to go into Bobgoat. He does get that Burrow Charge out. Oh, could be very scary if he had not connected with that one. Sometimes it's interrupted mid-flight and you feel a wee bit angry with yourself, and there is the isolation that we were talking about. This is all a case of almost similar to the Cocoon, right? Lock them in place, make sure they can't get this kill, but Bobgoat's going in. He's looking to try and start something. It's not going to work in his favor, however. There's the Burrow Charge in, looking for that kill. The Dragon's there, the Cocoon's come out. Bobgoat is low. Divine Shield has to be used. Cocoon is on Stukov in the backline, but the arrow comes across, stuns them in place, and Are-You Sush is far too late for this fight.
Yeah, a great fight coming out for the Wolfpack. They were able to play that essentially front-to-back team fight with the DPS on the backside, not really being threatened all that much, and Unspecified got a little bit too aggressive, wanting to try and contest that mercenary camp, but just stepped forward a little bit too much, and now this Blaze has gone a little bit too far, trying to apply some pressure, trying to force away the members of Wolfpack, but just takes a whole bunch of damage instead.
Resources are starting to get low here with Rykos and Lyrizen really being the main focus here to make sure that they can deter the Wolfpack from pushing any further. But they say, we don't really care. We're just going to rotate through to mid lane. We're going to get pressure up. We're going to keep it on. And we know this next shrine is going to be active right here on our doorstep. And this is the Arcane Punisher one. This is the one that we always like to highlight because it's so damn frustrating, especially given the amount of CC that the Wolfpack have.
Yeah, it does a lot of damage, but it looks like Unspecified just want to get in immediately and not let them set up. His healing takes a lot of damage. The flailing swipe was interrupted. He does manage to get the heal out just to keep himself alive, but on the other side, the Li Ming is going to get evaporated by this Hanzo. He's able to dive over the wall to keep himself safe, and they are going to be able to pick up the Uther as well, but the Hanzo just stuck around a little bit too long. He will get taken down by the Blaze, but the rest of the team is just not able to get the fight going in their way, and that front line of the Wolfpack is just able to just dismantle this Rolls Unspecified lineup.
And this is exactly what we were saying, right, Jill? That, Tagiza has to play aggressive, but he has to play in a concise manner. He was the only one that died on his team because he went so damn deep. The rest of the team were like, we're chilling. We're playing off these Zerkov orbs. But no, he went for the hero play, and, it didn't work out as well as he'd potentially envisioned.
Yeah, and this is just, although they did lose that Hanzo, they are going to be able to maintain control of the point, as we do have the Tassadar managing to clean up all of those Guardians, secure that Punisher for themselves, and this is going to be a really strong push coming out for them.
I'm looking forward to this one. Tanner in the front line, still very healthy. What ultimates do we have available? The Army of the Dead is there. The Dragon's Arrow, as well as the Flailing Swipe, will be up in just a second. So every ultimate across the board bit between both teams shall be ready for this keep defense. The main topic to keep your eyes peeled on, though, is that level 13 talent difference.
Yeah, that's going to be a real big, a bit of an uphill battle coming in for Rolls Unspecified. They're going to have to try and get some defense together. They are going to be able to drag over the Punisher, but it's taking so much damage, he just dies immediately.
Yes, and that's exactly what I was talking about. The virulent reaction at level 13. When you detonate the weight of Pustule, it roots them. So you got root, jump, stun, root. He had to get cleansed. It's too little too late. He's dead.
They did have the Divine Shield to potentially get him out of there, but they probably thought that he was going to be safe. They would have been able to just get those heals in to help him out of there, but there was just way too much coming in for him.
Oh, that's the dirty combo. This is the mid to late game scaling of this composition, which we knew was going to come about. The early game pressure that was there in favor of Rolls Unspecified is starting to taper off. What can they do now, though? Suze is on the flank. He's got vision of all four members. Bob Goat's in chase. They have 13. They're looking to try and execute that small window between them and getting level 16, but it's not going to happen. They're going to back up, and they're going to stick around for another day. Level 16, a 3-level lead, GL. Not to mention the scaling and the talents. That's huge. Yeah,
this is looking very good for the Wolfpack. They're in a brilliant position. They have taken down that bottom keep, which is going to allow them to play very well around the map as they've gone for a fight.
That they are indeed. And Ulji says, thank you very much for donating us that camp. This is the payback. This is the IU card that you dropped in our mailbox at this game. We're taking it back. We're going to pick up that camp, and we're going to keep command of this game. The big, I suppose the big point to really discuss now is that the keeper's got on the bottom lane. But actually, hold the phone. Dragon's come out. Lurking Arm is there. IU Lawn is in the middle of nowhere. He has to force the Divine Shield of himself. Thankfully, nobody dies, but some cooldowns had to be burned. I was just going to mention, however, GL, the keeper's already gone. The global is on the side of Wolfpack. They can stall this game out.
Yeah, it's when you have that global, it's so it's much easier to play the macro game, and when you have a keep down, it's going to be something that Rolls Unspecified are going to have to be aware of for the rest of this game. They're going to have to at least have one person dealing with that potential threat onto the core, while also trying to have enough members around to contest some of these objectives, because there's only so long you can just give up objectives before it really starts to crumble right into your base. But I almost got ourselves out there, though. They keep on putting a lot of pressure on the top side.
The drag is there, and Anubrak, he's out of sight and out of mind. Howling Blast comes in. Ooh, the bunker! How sweaty was that? And Suze lives. Beautiful plays coming out there at the last second.
Yeah, a wonderful play. It's one of those things that we've really started to see a lot more as we've seen the Blaze be played more and more, is that it's very much similar to the Lieutenant Morale's medevac, except you don't have to go flying to a different place to get the use out of it. You can just plop it down. You can have that. You can play the footsies of going in and out of that bunker and still be around in the fight. And very well done there from Soza to keep himself alive. But that's another cooldown that's actually. Never mind that. The cooldown is short enough that he has it back already. So they're just going to be trying to get as much experience back into this game, because we're just seeing so much pressure. All right, never mind.
I mean, it's hard not to laugh. You just see it happen every single time. You go, no way. And it's just there every single day of the week. Dragon's Arrow is there. This time the punishment comes across because both of the bruises are gone. The drag is dead. Divine Shield is hot. Greymane is forced to run away in that Worgen form. Cannot do much in this situation. And well, what did the Wolfpack respond by? They say, thank you very much. The keeper's now open. We're going to drop this one down to half. Bob, go, be gone. We don't care. We want this and we will take it. You don't even have 16.
Yeah, there's not really a hell of a lot that Roles Unspecified can do to prevent this. A whole lot of their composition is about taking those team fights, and those haven't been really working out for them so far in this game. So when that starts to falter, you're kind of struggling a little bit. They do have some wave clear in the Greymane and also the Blaze, but it's not as considerable as we're seeing, and it's just not enough to prevent the members of the Wolfpack from just blasting down their structures.
Right, now, Gio, let's paint a picture for the viewers. Keeper's gone in the top lane. This is where this Punisher's going to be spawning. They have a 2-level lead in this game. If they can pick this one up quite healthily, they go for the win, potentially. There is no keep. It's straight to the core. They find one pick like we've seen before with that lurking arm. The game's said and done.
Yeah, there is the potential for Roles Unspecified to be able to drag that Punisher towards the center keep. It will leave them in a very awkward position, but it's just not really working out for them. They're just getting picked off left, right, and center.
Now, I don't know what you want to take that down to. Was it overconfidence, or was it just Tanner doing Tanner things? But he got dropped like a sack of potatoes, and it's looking like now Roles Unspecified have a little bit of punch left in that packing shop. They want to go for this one. They find that kill. They denied Dahaka from doing anything with the Cocoon, and they can re-establish control off this point. 32-2. Is there enough poke from the Wolfpack boys to get this?
Yeah, well, they do have the Hanzo Scatter Arrow to potentially just throw some in there to try and pick up some of them, and also those Side Storms we're seeing being very effective, just clearing out some of those members. But we look back into the base of Roles Unspecified. Olgi on that Dahaka is just trying to drag the members of Roles Unspecified around the map and forcing them into a really awkward position because they want to get that Punisher, but they are going to be losing their core.
They're losing the core as well. The Punisher's being picked up. It's going to jump. These members are all straggled around in this middle side of this objective. It's going to come on in. It goes on to Suze. The Cocoon comes out straight away onto the Giza. Now do they decide to collapse onto him as a result? They're still running away with this one. Greymane is low. He's going to fall for sure. -4 armor. It's going to happen any single time now, but all G is on the core. Greymane falls down. The core's down to 75%. That was a bit of a dilemma that they were thrown in. They haven't won on both fronts.
Yeah, they managed to get the Punisher even though they were kind of down in that area, but they are just going to keep on pushing through with this Punisher, and with losing members, it's going to be very, very hard for them to hold on to this base.
OG is a raid boss right now. He thinks he's Ragnaros. He was taking 3 members quite healthily, running all the way through the wilderness. And just like that, the Punisher is there. The core falls on down. What an explosive finish to the end there. Dilemma harder than your calculus homework. It was a situation to behold there, Gio.
Yeah, it was a very awkward position to be put in because they as you mentioned, they kind of needed that Punisher to help just force away the members of the Wolfpack, because with that keep open on the top side, it was very likely to be pushing towards that core. They needed to get that to work for them. They weren't able to get it. They were getting pushed in on the core, that Dahaka really being a pain in their side. They weren't able to get anything to really work in that final moment. In those final moments, they were able. The Wolfpack were able to secure the Punisher for themselves, and from there, it's just you're just getting dragged too many places around the map, and there's too much power around, and it's just really unfortunate for them at that point.
Do you think it was like a defining moment in that game that really spun it against Roles Unspecified? I mean, we knew they had that early game. We knew they should have, for the most part, dictated that. Where, in your opinion, do you really feel that it kind of like slowed down in that regard? I mean, we were saying that they should have commanded, that they should invade, right? They should be winning that race to 10. They should be going from that and really pushing their agenda on this game. But, you know, the mid to late game came around, the scaling from Wolfpack was there, and the game just got out of control quite quickly.
Yeah, it's hard to really pinpoint a single moment, but it was just a kind of a progression of moments that just kept on happening. One person getting picked off here, one person there, and they just weren't able to get their big dive composition they weren't able to execute on it. And yeah, once they started to lose control of the map, it was just really hard for them to get back into it. We saw them trying to make some plays, but it just wasn't really working out once the Wolfpack were able to set up that brilliant team fight for themselves.
That's the one. Well, there you go. Rolls Unspecified on the day do not win their match. Wolfpack go ahead with the 1-0 lead for the night. We're going to jump to a quick commercial break, and when we return in 5, we're going to have Quick Match Warriors up against Downfall. Downfall with a 7-1 score. This is a match that you're going to want to definitely see, so don't go anywhere. We'll see you soon.